Super Mario 64 came out in 1996. It's the legendary video game from Nintendo for the Nintendo 64. But there's one question. What is the thing in the background that looks like the face of a creature on a wooden door or a wooden cabinet or a wall or a frame, or what is this? What is this thing? So let me show you what I'm referring to. So here on the left, you can see a screenshot of the cake photo from the Nintendo 64 version of Super Mario 64. On the right is a version of the photo that I created from the Nintendo DS Super Mario 64 version. Just so you can see, it is in both versions. The cake is a little bit different, the lighting's a little bit different, it's a little bit different, but this design or face or object in the background is still there. It's in both versions. So I just want to show you side by side. I took screenshots of the various views of this image that appear during the ending of the Nintendo DS version. And I pieced this together to get the clearest, most unobstructed view of this object from that version. So you can see side by side, left Nintendo 64, right Nintendo DS version. Unfortunately, the star obscures a large portion of this object that's in the background in both versions, but it's a little bit, the position of the star is a little bit different in each version. So in the, again, on the left, on the Nintendo 64 version, it's blocking more of the upper left area, whereas in the Nintendo DS version, a little bit more of that area is visible, and you can see what's happening there. So what are we looking at here? So we're looking at a wooden table with a checkered cloth, a green and blue checkered cloth. There's a cake, there's teacups, teapot, etc. in the foreground. And the cake is decorated with strawberries, a thank you sign, cherries, and the star, and some figures. But in the background, there are, I don't know if they're doorways, if they're other little tables, I don't know what they are. But in the center of the background, there's what appears to me to be some kind of wooden cabinet with this object. I don't know if the object is sitting on the shelf of the cabinet. I don't know if the object is carved into the back or front, or this board of the cabinet. I don't know, because it's low resolution and compressed, so there's compression artifacts or whatever. But and the star and the cake are obscuring it. But what is this? So if I move this window down a little bit, I pieced together areas of the Nintendo 64 version and areas of the Nintendo DS version to build as much of an unobscured view of this object as I could. So let me turn that off here. So you can see here, I was able to bring in some pieces of this object, and up here as well, I was able to bring in some pieces of this object. So you can see there is a rounded shape. It's not a circle, but it's rounded. There's some kind of, I don't know if it's a handle or a rim or just some kind of ridge along the bottom. One thing that comes to mind is a door knocker. That's something that comes to mind because I see on the sides here what could maybe be a hinge, and this looks like it's, it could be lifted and rocked back and forth like a door knocker. But there is this rounded object, and then there is what appears to be two other smaller rounded objects on top of it. The interesting thing is it does not appear to be perfectly symmetrical. So if I were to take, let's say, the right side of this object, which is the most visible, and mirror, just flip it, mirror it, and so that we have a left side, it's not perfectly symmetrical. It's a little bit tilted at an angle. So what is this thing? What is this? Is it a carving? Is it a character? Is it a creature? Is it just a design that, because of the low resolution and the image compression artifacts, that I'm misinterpreting it as a face of a creature? Or is it just Is it a bucket with a handle that's resting on the? What is this thing? What is this? Some people, there's very few references to this online, but there are a few, just not many. And people, first of all, people say, well, this is very clearly Mario sitting in a chair getting ready to eat the cake. This is just my opinion. I have no idea how somebody sees this object in the distant background and comes to the conclusion that that is Mario's face getting ready to eat the cake. That doesn't make sense to me. The way it's lit, the way the distance from the cake, the way that it's very, in my opinion, very clearly part of this wooden cabinet or wooden structure. Again, in the relatively distant background, away from the table, to say that that's Mario's face just does not make any kind of sense to me. That's just me. Maybe you can explain how that is Mario's face getting ready to eat the cake, or some people said Luigi's cake. Some people speculate that it's a carving of Yoshi's face on this wooden board because, again, you have the circular object here, the larger, sorry, rounded object, not circular, rounded object here. This bottom ridge could be a lip or the mouth, and the two smaller circular objects above, again, people are guessing that those resemble what could be Yoshi's eyes. And if you see up here, there are what seem to be, what could be interpreted as eyebrows. And also on the larger rounded object in the main part of this, there are what could be interpreted as nostrils, or at least on one side, what looks like it could be a nostril. This is so weird. And then what I see on the bottom here, what comes to my mind is it looks like little objects resting on the shelf, right below this carving or this other object or something. So there's little things. They could be raspberries, maybe like raspberries laying down on the shelf. They could be little cups laying down. One is laying this way, one is that way, or strawberries with the tops cut off. I don't know. Or they could be part of this larger creature or carving or object, like maybe little tentacles poking down from, like as if they're coming from the neck or like the bottom of the face of this creature. Or a collar, like maybe it's a carving of a head, and this is some kind of ruffled collar of this head. I don't know. This is very bizarre to me and baffling and confusing and mysterious. So if anyone has any guesses now that I'm hoping I partially unobscured more of what this image is, maybe now you have a clearer view and you can make a more accurate speculation. Please leave comments, take a look, let me know what is this thing? What is this? Again, I'm saying it's part of the background. It's not a Mario head that's getting ready to eat the cake. It's part of this wooden structure in the background. But what is it and why? Why? Now again, of the few references to this online, some people say, well, it's just a decoration on the back of the chair. From what I'm seeing, this is not a chair that's pulled up to the wooden table. This is some structure in the background, whether it's a cabinet, a shelving unit, part of the wall, maybe a built-in shelf, or some kind of piece of furniture like that, but in the background, not a chair, not the back of a chair pulled up to the table. But please take a look. So hopefully here you can see, let me put this back the way it was. Again, down here on the bottom left, the Nintendo 64 version. Down here on the bottom right, the version that I pieced together from the Nintendo DS version. And then up here is the best that I could, a pieced together version from both versions that show the least obstructed view. So you're getting to see a little bit more of what this is. And again, these little objects down here, which were obscured in the Nintendo 64 version, but are visible in the DS version. So it's like the one up here is what I would call the best of both worlds. What is this thing? Let's figure this out. If anyone wants to take a screenshot of this and tweet Nintendo, maybe they'll be able to answer this for us. I mean, hey, maybe the simplest approach is the best approach. Maybe someone just take a screenshot of what I've pieced together and just ask Nintendo, tweet Nintendo. But let's figure this out once and for all, because this is driving me crazy. Wait, what is this? What is this? Let's figure this out.